Setting boundaries around our personal lives is a profound act of self-respect. It's a way of telling ourselves, I value who I am and what I've been through enough to protect it. Boundaries are like the walls of a house, the very structure that defines what is allowed in and what stays out. They don't cut us off from others. Instead, they define the space within which we feel safe and grounded. When we have boundaries, we're better able to control what we absorb from the world around us and what we share in return. This form of self-respect often challenges us to be intentional about what we give away. In our society, where sharing everything from achievements to struggles is celebrated, it takes courage to decide that not everything needs to be made public. It's an act of valuing oneself to say, this experience, this moment is mine. To hold boundaries can be hard to set, but they remind us that we deserve to have parts of our lives that are just ours. By choosing what we keep private, we create a space where we can process and reflect without outside influence. Boundaries also provide a sense of ownership over our experiences. When we reserve some parts of ourselves, we are asserting our right to protect our energy, our emotions, and our stories. This doesn't mean we shut people out, but rather we're choosing to honor the parts of our lives that feel too precious to share freely. The journey we're on is deeply personal, unique, and irreplaceable, shaped by experiences, emotions, lessons, and growth that only we can fully comprehend. Each step, each moment, and each challenge contributes to a narrative that is truly ours, a path only we can walk. While we may share similar experiences with others, the exact combination of our past, present, and inner growth creates a story that is one of a kind, full of nuances that are often impossible for others to fully understand or appreciate. Our journey is, in every sense, sacred. It's a collection of moments and transformations that shape us into who we are. And not everyone will be able to grasp the depth or significance of these experiences. Honoring the sacred nature of our journey means recognizing that some experiences are meant to be private, to be held close and reflected upon in solitude. There is something profoundly empowering about knowing that certain aspects of our lives don't need validation or acknowledgement from others to be valuable. By keeping some parts of our journey to ourselves, we give ourselves the time and space to explore our emotions, understand our growth, and draw lessons that are not diluted by outside influence or expectation. This privacy gives us the freedom to fully experience and process our lives in a way that is authentic and free from the pressure of judgment or comparison. The sacredness of our journey also lies in its ability to teach us in ways that only we can understand. Each person we meet, each challenge we face, each victory we experience, all these things carry specific meanings that may not resonate with others in the same way. When we treat our journey as sacred, we acknowledge that the highs and lows are part of a larger picture, a picture that may only reveal itself to us with time and introspection. Not everything we encounter or endure needs to be shared. Some things are meant to remain unspoken, existing solely as silent markers on our path to self-discovery and fulfillment. Embracing the sanctity of our personal journey also helps us become comfortable with our individuality. It reminds us that we don't need to follow someone else's timeline or path, nor do we need to measure ourselves against anyone else's experiences. The challenges we face, the setbacks, the breakthroughs, and the quiet moments of understanding are all uniquely ours. They're woven together in a way that no one else could replicate or even fully understand. Self-validation is about rooting ourselves in a place of inner confidence and belief, learning to see our own worth without relying on the acknowledgement or approval of others. In a world that often conditions us to look outside for validation, this practice can feel revolutionary. It's a quiet, resilient strength, allowing us to trust in our own choices, values, and direction, regardless of whether anyone else understands or agrees. Relying on external validation can feel reassuring at first, but it's also fragile. The problem with constantly seeking external approval is that it makes us vulnerable to the fluctuations of others' opinions. One day we might receive praise and it feels amazing. The next we may face criticism or indifference, and suddenly our sense of self-worth plummets. But self-validation allows us to sidestep this roller coaster of seeking approval. By building our own internal support system, we create a foundation that remains stable regardless of how others see us. Practicing self-validation requires us to become attuned to our inner voice and cultivate a sense of inner worthiness. It's about affirming to ourselves, I am enough, just as I am, and holding on to that truth, even when no one else is there to reinforce it. When we rely on our own assessment of our accomplishments and values, we give ourselves permission to define our worth independently of any external feedback. This independence fosters a confidence that is grounded in self-trust rather than the fleeting nature of others' opinions. The journey to self-validation can sometimes feel like a long personal path requiring us to tune out external noise to hear our true selves. When we no longer need someone else's approval to feel successful, accepted, or capable, we free ourselves from the confines of others' expectations. It's liberating to know that our worth isn't something that others can grant or take away. It's something that lives within us, regardless of outside praise or criticism. Letting go of the need for approval is one of the most freeing acts we can give ourselves, yet it's often one of the hardest. We grow up conditioned to believe that others' opinions define us and that their acceptance or rejection shapes our worth. This desire for approval can become so deeply ingrained that it quietly steers our decisions, influences our goals, and even shapes the way we see ourselves. When we live seeking validation, we place our sense of worth in someone else's hands, giving them the power to determine how we feel about ourselves. Learning to let go of this need is like reclaiming our inner compass, taking back control of how we experience and define our own lives. Releasing the need for approval starts with understanding that no one else can ever truly know or understand our whole journey. The opinions of others are often based on their own biases, values, and experiences that are a reflection of them, not of us. When we recognize this, we start to see that their approval or disapproval says more about them than it does about us. This realization can be transformative as it allows us to break free from the weight of others' expectations and judgments. We can begin to make choices rooted in our own values and desires rather than adjusting our lives to fit someone else's narrative or comfort zone. Letting go of the need for approval also means learning to trust ourselves more deeply. When we rely on external validation, we're constantly looking for someone else to tell us that we're on the right path. But without this crutch, we're left with only our own inner voice. And this forces us to strengthen our self-trust. It encourages us to cultivate an inner confidence that can't be easily shaken by the whims or judgments of others. This trust is powerful. It's the bedrock that allows us to take risks, to live authentically, and to pursue the things that truly resonate with us. Without the need for approval, we also give ourselves permission to embrace our unique path, even if it looks different from what others expect or understand. When we stop seeking validation, we're free to pursue dreams, make decisions, and express ourselves in ways that may not align with the majority, but that's precisely the beauty of it. We start living in a way that feels true to who we are, rather than shaping ourselves to fit into a mold that was never meant for us. This self-acceptance is liberating, and it brings a sense of peace that comes from knowing we are enough as we are. This freedom from needing approval doesn't mean that we stop caring about others or become disconnected from relationships. Rather, it means we approach these relationships with a healthy sense of independence. We can respect others' opinions without being defined by them. We can listen to feedback without feeling the need to change who we are. We allow ourselves to be fully present with others while staying fully grounded in our own worth, finding strength in knowing that we don't need anyone else's approval to validate our journey or identity. Protecting your energy is about creating an environment, both internal and external, that supports your well-being, creativity, and peace of mind. Our energy is one of our most valuable resources. It's what fuels our actions, sustains our focus, and allows us to show up fully in life. When we become mindful of protecting our energy, we start to recognize what nourishes us and what drains us, and we make intentional choices about where and with whom we invest our time and attention. This is an act of self-care and self-preservation, recognizing that not everyone and not everything deserves our precious energy. One of the most important aspects of protecting our energy is learning to set boundaries with people, situations, and even our own thoughts. Not every situation or person aligns with our values or goals, and some interactions can be draining, leaving us feeling depleted, stressed, or anxious. When we establish healthy boundaries, we're not being rude or dismissive. Instead, we're creating a buffer that allows us to protect our inner resources. Setting boundaries can mean limiting time with those who bring negativity, declining invitations that don't serve us, or stepping back from environments that consistently sap our motivation. In doing so, we preserve our energy for the things and people that truly matter. Protecting your energy also means cultivating self-awareness and noticing what depletes or restores you. It's about observing how you feel after spending time with certain people, engaging in particular activities, or even consuming media. Once you understand what affects your energy levels, you can make more informed decisions about what you allow into your life. For instance, if constant exposure to negative news drains you, setting boundaries around media consumption can make a huge difference in your mental and emotional well-being. It's about finding a balance between staying informed and maintaining a healthy, peaceful state of mind. Another essential aspect of protecting your energy is managing your own inner world, your thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Our minds can be powerful sources of energy, but they can also drain us if we let worries, doubts, and negative self-talk take over. By practicing mindfulness, gratitude, and positive self-reflection, we can cultivate an inner environment that supports our energy rather than depletes it. This doesn't mean we ignore challenges or avoid difficult emotions. Rather, it means that we approach them with a mindset that allows us to process and release them, rather than letting them drain us. Protecting our energy involves choosing which thoughts to engage with and which to let pass, knowing that not every worry or fear deserves our full attention. In addition, protecting your energy means being selective about the goals and commitments you take on. Overcommitting or stretching yourself too thin can lead to burnout, which is a surefire way to exhaust your energy reserves. When we're mindful of our priorities and focus on what truly aligns with our values, we conserve our energy for the things that bring us joy and fulfillment. This requires learning to say no without guilt, recognizing that every yes should be a commitment that genuinely resonates with us. Protecting our energy means valuing quality over quantity, choosing fewer but more meaningful engagements over a packed schedule that leaves us exhausted and depleted. Lastly, surrounding ourselves with supportive, uplifting people is a powerful way to protect our energy. Relationships that bring mutual respect, encouragement, and positivity help us recharge rather than drain us. Spending time with those who inspire us, who believe in us, and who bring out the best in us not only boosts our energy, but reinforces our sense of purpose and belonging. When we choose to nurture these kinds of relationships, we create an environment where our energy is reciprocated and valued. This doesn't mean every relationship has to be perfect, but it does mean prioritizing those that honor our energy and contribute to our well-being. Deepening self-trust is about cultivating an unshakable belief in our own judgment, choices, and resilience. It's an ongoing journey of learning to rely on our inner compass, even when the world around us may seem uncertain or even discouraging. When we have a strong foundation of self-trust, we can move through life with a sense of confidence and peace, knowing that regardless of external circumstances or others' opinions, we have the capacity to navigate our own path. This self-trust becomes a steadying force, helping us stay aligned with our values, make authentic choices, and recover gracefully from setbacks. At its core, self-trust begins with the willingness to listen to and honor our own inner voice. In a world full of noise, advice, and expectations, it's easy to feel swayed by others' opinions and desires. But when we tune into ourselves and prioritize our own insights, we build a practice of checking in with what feels right for us personally. This doesn't mean ignoring advice or guidance from trusted sources. Rather, It's about using external input as a supplement, not a substitute for our own understanding. When we honor our inner wisdom, we affirm that we are capable of making sound decisions and that we don't need constant outside validation to feel secure in those choices. Self-trust is also about embracing our ability to learn and grow, recognizing that mistakes are not failures, but rather opportunities for growth. When we trust ourselves, we give ourselves permission to take risks, knowing that even if things don't go as planned, we have the resilience to learn, adjust, and keep moving forward. This approach frees us from the paralyzing fear of failure as we begin to see challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. By cultivating self-compassion and allowing ourselves room to experiment and make mistakes, we reinforce the belief that we are capable of navigating whatever comes our way. Building self-trust also means taking responsibility for our own happiness and well-being. Rather than relying on others to fulfill us or bring us a sense of worth, we look within to find fulfillment and purpose. This can be a powerful shift as it empowers us to take control of our lives rather than waiting for others to meet our needs or validate our worth. We become the source of our own contentment, and in doing so, we strengthen our confidence and dependence. This doesn't mean isolating ourselves or becoming completely self-sufficient, but rather recognizing that our primary relationship is with ourselves and that true self-trust comes from knowing we can meet our own emotional and mental needs. Another key aspect of deepening self-trust is practicing self-acceptance. Trusting ourselves means recognizing and embracing all parts of who we are, both our strengths and our imperfections. When we accept ourselves fully, we stop hiding or apologizing for parts of ourselves that may not align with others' expectations. This self-acceptance frees us from the pressure to be perfect or to conform, allowing us to show up authentically in every aspect of life. As we build this acceptance, we come to trust that we are enough as we are, that our worth isn't dependent on meeting certain standards or being someone else's idea of good enough. Learning to set and honor our own boundaries is another vital component of self-trust. When we trust ourselves, we know what feels right and what doesn't, and we are willing to protect our well-being by setting limits where needed. Boundaries are a way of affirming our own worth and valuing our own time, energy, and space. Each time we honor a boundary, we reinforce the belief that our needs and values matter, and this reinforces our self-trust. By saying no when something doesn't serve us, we affirm that we are capable of making choices that prioritize our well-being, regardless of external pressure or expectations. Finally, deepening self-trust involves a commitment to our own growth and evolution. Trusting ourselves means recognizing that we are always learning, adapting, and expanding, and that we don't need to have all the answers at once. We trust ourselves enough to embrace the process of growth without judging ourselves for not yet being where we want to be. This growth mindset fosters patience and resilience, allowing us to see each step forward, no matter how small, as a valuable part of the journey. Protecting your energy is essential for maintaining emotional, mental, and even physical well-being in a world that's constantly pulling us in different directions. Our energy is finite. It fuels our thoughts, emotions, and actions, and when it's depleted, it affects every area of our lives, from how we interact with others to how we handle challenges and pursue our goals. Protecting our energy is about creating an intentional barrier between ourselves and the people, situations, and environments that drain us so that we have more to give to the things that truly matter. It's a form of self-respect, a way of honoring our boundaries, and a means of taking charge of our lives in a meaningful and sustainable way. One of the first steps in protecting your energy is to recognize and acknowledge what drains you. This awareness allows you to identify the sources of stress, negativity, or pressure in your life. It could be specific relationships, environments, commitments, or even your own thought patterns that exhaust you. By naming these energy drains, you're better equipped to make conscious choices about how and where you invest your time and attention. Protecting your energy doesn't mean you have to cut ties or avoid every challenging situation. It simply means understanding your limits and respecting the boundaries that allow you to stay grounded and centered. Setting boundaries is a key component of protecting your energy. Boundaries are not about shutting others out, they're about defining what you're willing to accept and engage with. When you set healthy boundaries, you create space for yourself to thrive without being overwhelmed by the demands or expectations of others. This might mean limiting the time you spend with certain people, saying no to commitments that don't serve you, or stepping back from conversations and situations that leave you feeling drained. Boundaries are a way of giving yourself permission to prioritize your well-being over pleasing others, which can be challenging but is essential for preserving your energy. Another way to protect your energy is by curating your physical and mental environment. This involves being mindful of what you consume, whether it's the media you watch, the books you read, or the people you surround yourself with. When you're selective about what you allow into your space, you create a positive, supportive environment that enhances your energy rather than depleting it. For instance, if you find that watching certain news programs or engaging in social media leaves you feeling anxious or overwhelmed, you might choose to limit your exposure or seek out content that uplifts and inspires you instead. This conscious curation of your surroundings helps you maintain a sense of calm, focus, and positivity. Protecting your energy also means taking time for self-care and renewal. We often think of self-care as a luxury, but it's a necessity when it comes to managing our energy. When we prioritize activities that nurture us, whether it's getting enough rest, spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, or engaging in a creative outlet, we replenish our energy and create a buffer against external stressors. Self-care doesn't have to be elaborate. It's about consistently engaging in small practices that bring you joy, peace, and a sense of balance. This helps you build resilience so that when faced with challenges or demands, you have the inner resources to cope without feeling completely depleted. Managing your inner dialogue is another crucial aspect of energy protection. Our thoughts have a powerful impact on how we feel and function, and negative self-talk can drain us just as much as an exhausting environment or relationship. By practicing mindfulness and self-compassion, we can learn to recognize when our own thoughts are contributing to stress or self-doubt. Instead of letting these thoughts spiral, we can redirect them towards a more supportive, positive mindset. This doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing difficult emotions. It means approaching them with a balanced perspective, allowing ourselves to process and release them without letting them drain our energy. Another important element of protecting your energy is being selective about the goals and projects you take on. Often we overextend ourselves by saying yes to too many things, whether out of a desire to be helpful, fear of missing out, or pressure to achieve. But every commitment requires energy, and when we overcommit, we risk spreading ourselves too thin. By being mindful of our capacity and focusing on the projects that align with our values and passions, we can invest our energy in a way that feels fulfilling rather than depleting. Learning to say no without guilt is an essential skill here. It's about recognizing that each yes you give should reflect a commitment that genuinely resonates with you and supports your goals. Lastly, surrounding yourself with supportive and positive people can have a tremendous impact on your energy. Relationships that bring encouragement, inspiration, and genuine care help us recharge and bring out the best in us. When we spend time with people who uplift us and honor our boundaries, we feel energized and validated. Protecting your energy means nurturing these relationships while recognizing that not every connection serves our well-being. It's okay to distance yourself from individuals who bring negativity or toxicity into your life, knowing that doing so allows you to preserve your own peace and energy. Choosing to invest in relationships that are mutually uplifting creates an environment where your energy is honored and valued. In closing, protecting our energy is not just about safeguarding our time or emotions. It's about honoring our own well-being, setting boundaries that allow us to thrive, and choosing relationships, environments, and practices that bring us closer to who we truly are. By becoming intentional with our energy, we create space for growth, fulfillment, and peace. This is a journey of self-respect, where we learn to value our needs, nurture our resilience, and step confidently into our lives without feeling drained by others' expectations or demands. So, as we move forward, let's give ourselves permission to protect our energy, knowing that this choice is an act of strength, self-love, and empowerment that allows us to live with authenticity and purpose.